After the final buzzer. This is where you come for instant post-game reaction.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
Draymond, feet set on that three, but shot it flat. Butler hustling for the extra possession. Curry sidestep three on the way. Yes, sir! Draymond did such a great job keeping his head up, looking out.
All right, Warriors win. Wasn't pretty throughout, but a big second half for the Warriors. Got off to a terrible start. 115 or 111.95 is the final. 111.95 the final as the Warriors beat the Pelicans and sweep the season series against the Pelicans. They take 4 for 4 in a game that they had to have. Steve Kerr calling this game the biggest game of the Warriors season, coming in with 10 games to go, now 9, and the Warriors getting off to a pretty slow start, but the Pelicans with a bunch of their key players out. You figured the Warriors would be able to turn the worm in this game at some point, and ultimately did, only down by 7 after it was 14-2, an ugly beginning to the game. Although I didn't think tonight, in just kind of diving into it, I didn't think tonight was a lack of effort necessarily at the beginning of the game. They just couldn't do anything right, couldn't hit a shot, and I think they were playing hard. They just weren't playing well at the beginning of the game. But regardless, a win is a win. We don't rate wins here on Dubs OT, but we do welcome you in to Dubs OT on this Friday night here on KNBR, the sports leader. It's John Dickinson with you. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Warriors improved to 42-31. I know Warrior fans with bigger things on their mind than just clinching a winning record, but the Warriors did clinch a winning record for the 12th time in the last 13 seasons. Only time the Warriors have not had a winning record was that COVID-shortened 2019-20 year where Klay Thompson and Steph Curry were both out with the injuries. Steph played 5 games in the 15-50 COVID year, and Klay Thompson obviously out with the ACL, and then he had recovered from the ACL and then ruptured the Achilles about a month or so before that COVID season was going to start, right around Christmas time and the holidays. And so the Warriors continuing to win, maybe not always championships, although they do have 4 of those, but another winning season, and another season right now here with 9 games to go that is trending to be an improvement on last year, and I think an improvement on the last couple of years. This team, depending upon how they do, and they got one more game that I think you could book as a should and need to win in San Antonio on Sunday before it gets a little bit tough. But you look at the Warriors, 44 a couple of years ago, 46 last year, and this team, I think, again, on pace with their 42nd win here and 9 to go to improve upon the 46, despite the fact that about 7 weeks ago when they made the Jimmy Butler trade, they were a game under the 500 mark at that point. So they're getting hot at the right time. And tonight was, I think, a huge stabilizing kind of win. Forget about the opponent. Forget about a couple of bad losses in Miami and Atlanta. Steph Curry back, Jimmy Butler playing, and it was a game that the Warriors had to get. And again, I think when you look at this team, it's just not going to be clean and dominant. I think especially on the road, the bad start's something that this team's going to have to continue to fight through and I think improve upon here in these final 9 games. I think that becomes less of an issue once you get into playing in playoff games, regardless of where it goes for the Warriors. You're going to be motivated in those games. Like, it's not like you're going to be sleepwalking through play-in or playoff games with elimination on the line or falling behind 0-1 or anything like that. So I think that kind of goes away. But we can also get into maybe a conversation as to lineups and combinations and different things like that, if some of it is leading to the slow starts. But all in all, again, not always pretty, but the Warriors do get the win, effective enough against the Pelicans to win 111-95. So 808 KNBR, the number, 415-808-5627. The Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open here. We got Kyle Haar and Danny Dunn in our San Francisco studios here on this Friday night, but jump in and join the conversation if you so choose on the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line or on the phone lines at 415-808 KNBR. Always appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch here on Dubs OT, our Dubs OT devotees, and good to see a lot of the regulars here on this Friday evening. And let's just kind of dive into some thoughts on this one here as we get things going. Talked about the bad start in a game that the Warriors, I think, 2 must wins. I think we're late enough in the season, and with the Warriors losing the last 2 to Atlanta and Miami, we can call them must wins. They have, for whatever reason, struggled for motivation against lesser teams. And I think what you saw tonight, though, is this team still, with Steph, has the talent and the confidence to cover it up. And there wasn't really a point, while it looked bad, and the Warriors were down at 14-2, and the Warriors were down 28-21 at the end of the first quarter, and they were down 3 going into halftime. There really wasn't a moment tonight where I thought they were going to lose. It didn't get to that point where I thought, oh, they're going to lose this game, or they might lose this game. Like, this to me felt more like the Brooklyn game or even the Chicago game, Jimmy Butler's first game back in the middle part of February before the All-Star break. This felt like one of those games. Fortunately for the Warriors, they didn't get down 24. They only got down by 12 there when it was 14-2. Now, if they had gotten down 24, they might have been in trouble tonight. But the 14-2 was the largest deficit that the Warriors faced in this game. But unlike those other games with Steph back, you felt like, all right, they're going to figure it out. And a big part of figuring it out for the Warriors was getting the ball inside, especially in the first half when their three-point shot wasn't falling. And the Warriors hit enough three-pointers in the second half, but they ended up for the game. I mean, it was ugly. I think it was 6 of 28 in the first half. And it ended up 7 of 27, I think, in the second half for a 13 for 55 overall from three-point range. So it ended up about as bad in the second half, although as the Warriors were seizing control of the game, they were able to shoot it a little bit better in stretches in the second half. But when they moved the ball and defended and got the ball inside and were a little bit more patient and didn't settle for threes, they really were able to take advantage, I think, of a Pelicans defense that just, for the most part, was not up to task. Again, I thought the Warriors were engaged in this one. I thought they were trying. They just couldn't do anything. Moses Moody kind of sparked them early with that poster dunk. Draymond was mixing it up with Missy early, and Curry and Alvarado were going at it early. So the Warriors, even though it was 1 for 14 from 3 at the end of the first quarter, they were showing some signs of life that I think at least gave you hope. Jonathan Kaminga, and we'll get you an update on Kaminga as it relates to the knee, as he banged knees with, was it Missy? I think it was, there late, and he ended up leaving the game. Kaminga didn't finish the game on a night where I think he was in line to finish, so we'll see if that was about just a coach's decision versus whether or not it was the injury. I mean, he did look physically compromised, missed a couple of free throws after getting to the line after the knee-to-knee collision there. But this is a really solid, quality Jonathan Kaminga game tonight. As you know, it was, I think, more about the little things. His hustle game was there tonight, and we talk about it so often as it relates to Kaminga, that the hustle game is the most important thing. And it's not about looking to score 25 or looking to 30 or being flashy. And I think tonight's game for Kaminga, as we look at the second quarter, it's a perfect example of how he can help this team without being flashy. You know, he just needs to play hard and do the little things and rebound and hustle and look to pass and try to make quick decisions and not take bad shots. And if he does those things and plays with the right intent and gets his offense in the flow of what the Warriors do, he's going to be productive, and he's going to be somebody that I think a lot of nights is going to play 25 to 30 or more minutes. It's not on, and there's been a big debate about this the last couple of days here, I think, as there always is when the Warriors struggle. It's not on Kerr to give Jonathan Kaminga what he hasn't earned just because Kaminga at times has checked out when he doesn't. I've heard a lot of that the last couple of days. Well, Kerr's you got to play him more. When you play him more, you get better output. Now, the reality is he needs to earn it. And again, I just liked his hustle game. It wasn't a perfect game by any stretch. Like, he made some mistakes. He took a one bad pull-up three. Again, it's not perfect, and you have to afford, I think, players to be able to take some bad shots here and there if they're playing with the right intent. And I thought Kaminga, forget about his line. I think he was a minus tonight in the plus-minus. Forget about all of that. I think he played with the right spirit and intent tonight and got to the basket, got to the free throw line, and ended up, made his first 6 free throws, missed a couple there after he banged knees. So I thought he made a real positive impact on the game. And I think tonight's game, because the line wasn't really pretty, although he did end up with 16 points, tonight's game and the Sacramento game, his first game back, I think are the two templates for how Jonathan Kaminga can be effective and help this team win. And when he's helping the Warriors win, his shot chart almost always looks kind of like it did tonight. I know a couple more misses there than maybe you would want to see, but it's all stuff at the rim. It's all layup, dunk, short jumper, maybe one of those. Maybe he hits a three. Tonight he didn't, but the hustle and intent was there, and you can make mistakes if you take that. Warriors also, from first half to second half, they flipped the free throw disparity. Pelicans were getting to the line a lot first half. Warriors weren't making threes. The offensive rebounds and second chance points, a big key there. Warriors end up with 36-16 in terms of second chance points, a plus 20 there in a game. They win by 16. So that was key there. Jimmy Butler, I thought, was awesome in the second half. Some key buckets from Brandon Pajemski early. Warriors really take off a 20-9 run start of the third, and then took a couple quick shots late in the third. Pelicans go on an 8-0 run. It was post Pajemski and Jimmy Butler. Bad stretch of 3 missed threes in a row. Pelicans go on an 8-0 run there. Kaminga with a nice little post up to end the quarter, and the Warriors end up with an 83-82 lead going into the fourth quarter. And then immediately at the top of the fourth quarter, the Warriors moved it around. They got it inside. When they did that, they were scoring at will. They pushed it up into double digits, and then up to ultimately a 16-point game. And the Warriors with enough there. Guy Santos making some hustle plays. Warriors really clamped down, I thought, defensively in the fourth quarter. And Jimmy Butler really put an imprint on the game. He ended up +7 for the game, but he was in the +20s for the second half of the game, and really made his presence felt. Jimmy and Draymond both defensively really made their presence felt. Tonight, one of those nights where Pajemski, I thought, did a lot of other things. He did a lot of things well. Couldn't hit a three. Moody wasn't hitting from three. I thought, kind of a quiet Moody night. Kaminga finished the first half over him. Guy Santos looked like he was in line to finish the second half potentially over him, but the Warriors get enough from everybody on a night where Kaminga, I thought, had one of his better games since his return. Steph pours in his 23, and the Warriors find a way to get out of New Orleans with the sweep of the Pelicans. So 808 KNBR, let's get to the phones. And our tip-off caller of the night here tonight, we start with Mike in San Francisco on the Sports Leader. What's going on tonight, Mike? You're on Dubs OT.
JD, good evening. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, Mike.
That's I believe it. The beginning of the game, I caught that. Heard that the Warriors were having some struggles recently at the opening at the starting gate, and I just watched tonight that specifically, and I was thinking to myself, they want to overcome those early game struggles. It's just getting the real definition of offense from the opening, running through your center. So I saw that with Draymond on maybe the fourth possession after a few threes. We were down 7-0 or something, and we rubbed off Draymond. He set a few high screen rolls. He eventually kicked it over to Jimmy in the corner. It was missed, but that's the way offenses run. It starts with the middleman. So it was nice to see that. Steph went for one of his patented step back threes off of Draymond screen. Next possession, you live with that. And next possession, Draymond took a three in the corner. I wanted to call timeout myself. But think the huddle, I was thinking, okay, strong. We're trying to work the ball inside out, and I'm not worried about how we're going to do it or whatnot, or who's going to be open in the corner. But strong layups. I mean, there's nothing like a strong layup. I saw Moses Moody dunk that ball, and I was like, man, I got my second breath like a sprinter, like a second wind. And that was brilliant. So from then on, I was like, okay, the boys are ready. You know how the NBA game flows. It's got its ebbs, it's got its flows. And I thought we were good from then, and it turned out we were. But yeah.
All right, appreciate it, and thanks for the call. I thought the Warriors got good looks early. They just didn't hit them. And again, one of the big questions for this team, I think big picture, is going to be Brandon Podziemski and Moses Moody specifically are going to get open looks in big games. Final 9 down the stretch, they're going to get looks. When the Warriors were at a dominant level, since Jimmy Butler joined them, those guys were making those three-pointers with regularity, and the Warriors seemingly looked unbeatable for the most part in those games. Lately, those shots have not been falling, and I think some of it maybe was Steph not being around, but it preceded Steph before the injury that caused him to miss the last couple of games, and he's missed 3 here in the last couple of weeks. It also was still there tonight. I mean, you look at Brandon Podziemski, 1 for 7, Moody 1 for 3, added up, it's 2 for 10 between those two. You're going to have those guys make shots because they're going to have to be on the floor. And if they're not on the floor, then who's going to be on the floor? And again, maybe Jonathan Kaminga is. I mean, Kaminga basically took up 4 at the 4 spot, Moody tonight, and played well. And, got to the free throw line. Again, the intent was there. He just like that. Clearly there was clearly a conversation where it was, somebody got in Kaminga's ear and said, dude, you got to play harder. You got to play with more energy. You got to get on the boards. Like clearly something was said there. Cause his shot selection was better tonight. He put his head down and got to the free throw line. Everything was basically at the rim. And that's the template, that is the template for this team. And he helped, I think, offset that. But going back to Podziemski and going back to Moody, those guys, if the Warriors do have a fatal flaw when we look back, it's going to be which Moody and Podziemski is it? Is it the Moody and Podziemski that made a bunch of shots when the Warriors were winning every night? Or is it going to be the Moody and Podziemski that can't hit a shot in a big game? I mean, that is what is going to happen if the Warriors go out in a playoff series or in a play-in game or 2 or whatever it is. I mean, I'm a firm believer that when teams lose in the playoffs, it looks a lot like they're losing games in the regular season. Like teams' flaws don't just disappear. If anything, they become more profound in the playoffs. And so the things that the Warriors struggle with, I think, are the things that ultimately wind up biting them. And then they have to figure out, obviously, in the offseason where to go to try and get better from it. But that is among the many key questions for Golden State. It's can some guys that have not been shot makers throughout their career just because they haven't had the opportunities because they're too young, can they hit shots? And Podziemski and Moody, I think, are going to be the two where the target is clearly going to be on them to do it. Lineup changes, I'm not sure what the lineup changes are. If the Warriors look to make some, I know there, is it post with Draymond and Jimmy and Moody and Curry? Is it Pajemski? Is it stick with Pajemski? Do you go to Kaminga? I think, I just get the impression, Steve's trying to get Kaminga to just accept, and I think he has the bench role, and that's something that they're focused on. I don't know that they've loved the small sample size with Draymond and Kaminga and Jimmy Butler together, even though that has the potential to be a closing type lineup, I think, on some nights for the Warriors. So I think all of that has to be weighed. But I think you look this lineup that they started tonight, as much as I think they're 10-0 now with it's Steph, Pajemski, Jimmy, Moody. It's small. Moody basically at the 4, Moody and Jimmy sharing the 3-4, however you want to look at it, and Draymond at the 5, but they're 10-0 with that group. So I think it's hard to say you're going to make an adjustment off that unless it's costing you games. And the games where Steph Curry doesn't play don't count as it costing you games. It just doesn't. So when they've had Steph, when they've had Jimmy with Draymond and Moody and Pajemski, that's been their best 5. That's been their most productive starting lineup to date now with the win tonight, even though they didn't get off to a great start. They played well together in the third quarter, but 10-0 all told. All right, 808 KNBR, as you listen to KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM San Francisco, a Cumulus Media station. Kyle, let's get one more here. Reggie in Vallejo is up next here before we take a quick timeout. Reggie, you're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, what's up, JD?
What's going on, man?
Hey, yeah, going well. Hope everything's going well tonight. Always enjoy the show. I just wanted to kind of bring up like the first quarter starts, the past couple games. It's tough because they're just not starting the game like super buttoned up, as you say, all the time. And I feel like they're getting into these games and thinking they can show up and dominate whatever team is in front of them. But in the reality is there a lot of those games that they played recently were without Steph, and we expected Jimmy and Draymond to kind of take the reins of the team, and I feel like they have, but there still isn't a point of attack on offense when Jimmy and Draymond are out there without Steph, and we've kind of see the offense go really stale at times, and because there's just a lack of shooting. And like what you said earlier with depending on Pajemski and Moody to make those shots, I mean, those are kind of the only guys, unless Buddy is knocking down threes early in the game. But if he's not even, playable. And now with throwing in Jonathan Kaminga back into, the team with now Jimmy, I still think, regardless of tonight's game, he's still trying to do too much, I think, offensively, and is just not doing the small things that a lot of people don't really pay attention to. And I think that's just a hard thing with the new gen of players, is that they think they got to have like a bag, or they have to do all these in and out dribbles. And, you look up and there's only 3 seconds to shoot, and it's like, oh shoot, I got to put it up, or the offense is, out of whack. So those are just some things that I've noticed. And Steve Kerr, again, he has another tough job coming up, because now he's got one of his rotation guys, Gary Payne, out, and he's still playing 10 guys. I think that's the hard thing, because the season's about to end in 9 games, and you're going into the playoffs still trying to narrow your rotation down. I think that's another part that Steve has to figure out going forward. And you can't, I don't think you can even win playoff games like this, because whoever they face in the first round, it's not going to be a team like the Pelicans or those other teams that we played when their star players are out. And they can't win like that. But tonight's again, I'm on your side where we can't grade wins at this point. A win is a win. So
yeah. No, I appreciate it, Reggie. I mean, tonight's a good win. Again, I think what I keep coming back to is like this team is significantly better than they were before the Jimmy Butler trade. I think they do at times struggle to get up for some of these games against lesser opponents a little bit. but they also are just not good enough, I think, to blow people out consistently. They're just not. It's not, as I've said it's not 2018. Like, it's just, these are not guys in their prime that can just wipe a game out in 8 minutes. And so I think it isn't going to be maybe as pretty as some in the Warrior fan base would like it to be. And that's okay. Like, again, you're almost to the finish line here. There's 9 games to go. If this team can stay healthy and win, 6, 7 of the 9, then I think you probably live with that. Now, is that going to be good enough to get to 6? It might not be. I mean, the Clippers won again tonight. The Timberwolves won again tonight. I mean, one of the things that I've got bookmarked to get into here tonight is, and I think it's really the first time that we can start to clearly say it a little bit, it may be better for the Warriors to get 7th and 6th. I'm not saying you don't go for 6th, but if Houston's going to be 2nd, you'd much rather play Houston. And so I don't think, while you want to play your best basketball and you want to continue to try to win every game, if it winds up where you have to play a play-in game 7-8 at home, as long as you win that game, see, that to me is that's the issue. Is you get to all of a sudden you're playing the Clippers or you're playing the Timberwolves at Chase, and it's a play-in game for the 7, and you can face Houston if you win it, and then you don't win it. And now you're in an elimination game and you're hosting the Kings, or you're hosting Dallas, or you're hosting Phoenix, and you got to win or the whole thing's over before it even starts. And that's the position that you don't want to be in. The other part to it, even though, and I'll get the full standings out here again, even though if you find yourself in that position where if you get to 6, you might play the Lakers, or you might play Denver, or whoever it is. So it just, but then you're at least going to be in the playoffs and get a full series against somebody. The other thing is, if you can clinch a top 6 spot by the end of the regular season, get a week off. And I think this Warriors team, with as old as they are, it's funny, seeding an opponent, anytime the Warriors have been asked about it, and I remember going back to 2 years ago when they played the Kings, and 3 years ago when they won the championship, anytime the Warriors would get asked about, and I think it was a little different before COVID because they were clear-cut a dominant team and a championship favorite, but even in the post-COVID iterations here that have made the playoffs, the 22 and 23 teams, anytime you'd ask players or Steve about, what do you want as it relates to matchup or anything, the only thing they would say is travel and time off. That's the only thing. They would never say, this team, that team, matchup. It was always travel. They want to go the shortest distance possible. So they loved Sacramento as an opponent because you're not even getting on a freaking plane. And you want as much time off as possible. And they obviously got to 6 a couple years ago, which means you get the week off in the post-play-in tournament era. And even going back to 2022, you get a week off. You get a legit couple of practices. You want preferably 2 days off in between games, which happens a lot in the first round, at least until you get to game 5, 6, 7. And you can have 2 days off before every game up until, through the first 4. You could have 2 days off between every game, or play like a Saturday, Monday, and then you're playing Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday. I mean, that's what the Warriors have had a lot here in those first rounds. So it's typically all about the travel and the rest as opposed to the opponent. Kyle, let me get Eric in San Francisco, and then we'll go ahead and take the 10 after timeout here since I've gone this far with it. Eric, you're next here on Dubs OT on the Sports Leader. What's going on tonight, E?
Hey, JD. I wanted to ask you what your thoughts were about the thing that was constantly driving me nuts about the past couple games, and particularly tonight. I mean, I know Yves Missi is somewhat of a shot blocker, but he's also a rookie, which means he's prone to over jumping and whatnot. But at one point, the Warriors were 1 for 14 from 3 and 8 for 9 from 2. And then at a later point in the game, they were 20 of 26 from 2 and shooting under 20% from 3. And it seems like the Warriors' strategy is when they're bricking threes, let's just double down and shoot more threes. When even if we're shooting 80% from two, or we're constantly over 50% on our twos, and it just seems like I don't understand the shot selection of the overall team, considering, like, okay, Steph's obviously got the green light from three, and Steph can never take a bad three as far as I'm concerned. But, like, the rest of the team is not comprised of great shooters. And on a night like this where, you know, basically Kelly Olynyk's their backup center or co-center with Eve Meese, there's no rim protection. They're constantly getting layups if they drive to the rim. It seems like they're just either being lazy and settling for threes, or like, I just, it doesn't make any sense to me when you're not making threes. Just like in Miami, they weren't making threes, and there's been a whole host of games this year where they're not making threes, but they're shooting well over 50% on twos. Why are they not just trying to get more to the rim more often? I mean, I know they don't have the world's greatest finishers and they blow a lot of layups, but even still, a mid-range, like a short midi that's wide open versus by Podziemski is better than a three-pointer by Podziemski, because he hasn't shown that he's a capable three-point shooter consistently over and over again. And I just don't see the logic, and I don't see why Steve Kerr isn't hammering on the timeouts. Go to the rim. Go to the rim. It's only Eve Meese. Go to the rim. Like, doesn't that confound you at all in the least bit?
It did tonight. I think it's kind of night to night for me, depending upon opponent, Eric. And I'm looking at the full shot chart right now as we're talking. They were 67.6% tonight in the paint, let alone twos in the paint. Here's the thing, though. They only took three mid-range, and I know you know this, but for those that don't, it's basically the math of the NBA now is it's either in the paint or it's a three. That's basically the philosophy. And so it's interesting as I'm looking at mid-range, they were 2 for 3 in the mid-range tonight. They took 3 mid-range. They took 55 threes, which that's a high number. To me, that's too much on a night where you're not hitting even in today's NBA. I think that number could have been in the low to mid 40s on a night where you're not hitting. So I completely agree with you. I think tonight specifically, because of the lack of rim protection, because of the fact that anytime the Warriors moved the ball effectively, they were able to get layups or get fouled, especially in the second half, get easy buckets, get points in the paint, get second chance points in the paint as well. I think as the game went on, they did it enough to where they could win, but there maybe needs to be on other nights a little bit more intent to it. I think it's harder to do on a night like against Miami, where they've got Bam Adebayo out front and they've got Khalil Ware, the rookie center who's athletic as all heck on the interior, and they're kind of funneling people to him so he can alter shots. It's case by case, but I think there's something to what you're saying, to be sure, Eric.
Right. I mean, obviously, like against Miami, the length is going to bother them when Jimmy Butler is the tallest player on the team, and you've got Bam and Ware. But I mean, in general, it just seems consistently like their strategy is like, oh, we're having a bad 3-point night. Let's just double down on more threes, even if we're shooting good on twos. Now, obviously, you're right. The math of the NBA is free throws, layups, 3-pointers. Obviously,
yeah. And they stuck to the math tonight. They stuck to the math tonight in a big way.
But it was just like in the first half, it was just driving me nuts because, like I said, at one point they were 8 for 9 for 2 and 1 for 14 from 3. And Eve Meese is a rookie who, yes, he had that nice block on Kaminga, and yes, he's athletic, but he's a rookie. He's not going to be a disciplined defender. And every time they move the ball, they seem to get a nice layup or some sort of good look inside. And it's just like, okay, guys, it's okay. You don't have to make, you're 0 for 7 on your first threes. And that's how you get down 14-2, because You're 0 for 7 from 3, but you're like 2 for 2 from 2. And it's really frustrating because it's like, if we had Steph, KD, and prime Clay, right, that's a whole different thing. But when you're talking about Jimmy Butler taking like 3 threes in the first quarter or something like that, when he should be definitely, like, he can hit from the mid-range, although he hasn't done it with the Warriors, but he can hit from the mid-range. He can take it to the bucket, right? Like Draymond taking, even if it's a corner 3, he's not going to consistently hit that. Why is he taking that shot? Pajensky, he's not consistently hitting 3. Moody, he had that great dunk, and he has been shooting, going into this game, he was like 5 for his past 29 from 3. So it's like, again, if you can't make your 3, get yourself going with some, either a layup or free throws. And it just confounds me that this team doubles down when we have one dead-eye shooter. And obviously Buddy's been a career 40%er, but this year he's been super hit or miss from 3. And outside of that, no one on the team is what I'd call a reliable three-point shooter. I mean, Post has been really good as a rookie, and he looks like he's going to be a consistent three-point shooter. But that's still a small enough sample that there's no certainty that, like, he's going to have it going every single night. Like, he hasn't proven himself to that level yet. So,
hey, thanks, Eric. Hey, really, really good stuff, man. We got to run. I'm overdue here for a timeout, but I hear you, and I think it's a good point. And even Quentin Post tonight, 3 for 9. He's struggled a little bit more than he had been prior, and I think he's trying to get himself going. I think the other part to it, just to kind of wrap up the conversation on that specifically, is if they're open looks and you can make a couple of them, it opens everything else up even more, and it makes it easier. Like, the last thing you want to do is to feel like you're forcing it to the interior, especially when you don't have the best finishers. You got to make sure it's pretty open if you're going to get in there. And I think tonight it was, and I think tonight they did enough of it to win the game. But I also think tonight is an example where could you have taken fewer threes and maybe tried to get it inside a little bit more? Yes, I think that is the answer. I mean, 55 on a night where you're under 25%. I mean, that's a little bit too much. And they were efficient inside tonight. Tonight was not one of those nights where they're missing a bunch of shots from, on the interior and getting layups blocked and those kinds of things. So, all right, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll get into the YouTube chat here as well. More thoughts on this one as the Warriors get the win, 111-95. It's Dubs OT with JD here on a Friday night on the Sports Leader.
Hoops Heads, Dubs OT with John Dickinson keeps balling. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
Jimmy Butler from Draymond, touchdown, and the bumper car foul with an opportunity for a three-point play.
I said Draymond's been getting more active. You know when he gets it, he's going to be looking up for his wide receiver, Megatron Jimmy Butler, and Olynyk just couldn't stop himself.
All right, welcome back. Warriors getting out in transition there. Not a lot of fast break points tonight either way. Only 17-16. Warriors at the advantage there, but they do get the win. 111-95 is the final as we're back here. Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader as the Warriors improve to 42-31 on the season. They get the win, stop the little two-game skid without Stephen Curry, and keep pace with both the Timberwolves and the Clippers, who won. Timberwolves beat the Suns in Minnesota 124-109, and the Clippers blew out the Nets 132-100. So the Timberwolves have been playing better, slip up here, slip up there for about a month now or so, the last 3.5 weeks. They did lose to the Pelicans, though, recently. So the difference between these two teams, I mean, the Warriors sweep the games against the Pelicans and Minnesota at this point. When you look at the Warriors, a half game in terms of separation, you can't slip up, especially this year against the Pelicans. That can be the difference between being a playoff team on April the 13th and being a play-in team that's going to have to win to get in during that week between the end of the regular season and the beginning of the playoffs. Clippers 42-31. So they match the Warriors record. Now they are hot, and not only are they hot, but Kawhi Leonard's been on one since he hit the little game winner against Sacramento a couple of weeks ago. He was not really playing well up until that point in that game, and since then he's looked like peak Kawhi, which is a little scary, I think, especially if you're going to have to play him and them maybe in an elimination game, or if you're one of these other teams that, like we've talked about for the Warriors, that, does Houston want to see the Clippers? I don't know that Houston wants to see the Clippers anymore. They'd want to see the Warriors at this point, or the Lakers, or any of those teams, as you look at the way things stack up here. But the Warriors get the win. They keep pace. 9 games to go. Another game I think they have to get in San Antonio. We'll also keep everybody updated on the latest with Jonathan Kaminga, who banged knees there late in the game with one of the Pelicans players and ended up being subbed out. I thought tonight he was in line to finish the game, and it would be unfortunate because I do think tonight was one of Kaminga's better games since his return a couple of weeks ago. I think he really impacted winning tonight more. Not perfect, but it was much more the role player Kaminga type game that I think the Warriors need from him if he's going to fit in and help this team get to where they want to and need to get to. Again, I've said it a lot and people can disagree with me, but to me it's more, can he figure out a way to be a high-end role player than it is, can you figure out a way to get him scoring 25 to 30 a night? Like that may happen by circumstance, but the Warriors just have to get effective minutes to where we're not having the debate as to whether he should even be on the court at all in the playoffs. And I think we were starting to head down that road a little bit here. Again, I throw out the non-Curry games basically, but it had been, I think, more bad than good overall in terms of that get in where you fit in type of a vibe as it related to Kaminga. All right, 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Let's get into the chat here. Our first installment of Kyle's Clicks here on Dubs OT. It's a spirited chat tonight. A lot of back and forth as we always love here on Dubs OT. Let's get it rolling, Kyle. What do you like here out of the chat? Alpha, JD, I really don't think it would be a bad thing the Warriors to play into the 7th seed, draw the Rockets in the first round, but I know at this point they just have to win as much as possible. It's just so difficult to dictate. I mean, if you could just, because if you try to get to 7, you might end up 8. And if you get to 8, you might be going halfway across the country to play one game. And again, what are the two things I've told you already tonight that the Warriors don't want? And I know this specifically because I've asked people about it within the organization. I've asked players and Steve Kerr in press conferences about, they don't want to travel and they like their time off. Draymond at one point, I think he said, we're old. We don't want to be on planes for 4 hours and don't want to be going far and need to get the rest where at all possible. So you got to shoot for 6. And again, if you don't get it, you don't get it. But it's also too difficult to manipulate. I mean, you really can't even manipulate it until like the last day of the season. But even then, it's hard to manipulate. Why? Because you're playing the Clippers the last day of the season. Could you imagine if the last day of the season was tomorrow and it was, well, if you beat the Clippers, you're 6. If you lose to the Clippers, you're 8. Because that's what it might mean. It might not mean 6 versus 7. Because one of those teams could be guaranteed to lose. It would be dependent on what Minnesota does. It could be winning your 6, losing your 8. And 8, you still could get to 7 in the play-in, but that would mean that you'd have to go on the road in the first of your play-in games. And again, so it's would you really sit guys out or intentionally lose to the Clippers? Like, I think the way the Warriors would have to look at it at that point is you've got 3 games basically to get in. You win on the last day of the year, you're 6, you win, you lose that, you get another chance. You basically get 3 chances to win 1, and then you're 7 or 8. And so again, I just think it's too difficult at this point if you're the Warriors to look to manipulate. And you want to finish strong. You don't want the basketball gods to take it out on you for trying to do something that doesn't need to be done. And here's the other part. As much as we're still talking about 6, 7, 8, 5 and 4 are on the table. Again, are the Warriors going to be healthy enough, play well enough in the final 2 weeks here to get to that? We shall see, but they are only 2 games out of 4th. Now, they don't have the tiebreaker against the Lakers. They could get to 5th. Memphis fired their head coach today, Taylor Jenkins, and a couple of assistant coaches as well. The Warriors are only 2 back of Memphis, and they play Memphis on Tuesday. So we'll see. And the Grizzlies have a difficult schedule. They're playing Boston coming up here. They've actually got 2 difficult games in between. Is it the Lakers and Celtics that they play next? Yeah, they play the Lakers and the Celtics before they play the Warriors. So if the Warriors could go in there and win the next 2, they might be 5th at that point. As much as, again, we're talking about 6, 7, and 8. But do you want 5th if it means you play the Lakers in the first round? Do you want 4th? Yes, because you'd get home court advantage if you're playing the Lakers in the first round. Like that becomes a question. Again, I think you just try to win as much as you can, and you let the chips fall where they may. But if you do wind up 7th and get Houston, you'd feel all right about that as a consolation prize, I think, at this point. All right, let's continue on here. JC Mack, role player Kaminga that we can get behind, playing winning ball. That we can get behind. I'll read that with the right tone. Yeah, that was it tonight. Like tonight was like that again. He can do that, I think, and even score more and be more efficient on some nights. But tonight is a winnable template. Again, I don't care about opponent. It's intent. It's how you play the game. And clearly, somebody lit a little bit of a fire. You can always kind of tell when maybe there's been a conversation internally, based on how somebody comes out and the way that the way that they play. And I get the impression that was part of it, probably because of the GP2 injury, and we'll see what's going on with Gary Payton. But I think there was hey, you got to do. I think it made for a natural transition if you're the Warriors coaching staff and Steve Kerr to say, hey, we need GP does a lot of the dirty work. JK, with him out, we need you to do a lot of that dirty work, even though they need that anyway. But it makes it easier to say it. Like we need some of that. And so I think Kaminga put his hard hat on tonight, and it was just a more effective performance So I think that was a definitely a good sign. Digum 117, Moody shoots this team into holes to start these games. Yeah, I mean, he's going to get open looks. And not because the defense doesn't necessarily respect him, but just it's because of the gravity that Steph draws defensively. It's because teams are always going to be honest on Jimmy Butler. Like, it is really going to be Moody and Podziemski that are going to get the looks. Those guys are going to be the guys that in the flow. And if you look at the way Jimmy Butler plays in terms of trying to make the right play and set up teammates, it's going to be those two. And they're going to have to make teams pay. And if they are incapable of making teams pay, then it probably winds up being the thing that does the Warriors in. And it's unfortunate, but that's just being real. Like, this thing is not locked and loaded to where, like, it's an automatic by any means. But I think that's the positive of the Warriors going through this whole experience is you're going to get to see, can Moody and Podziemski are part of the Warriors' best starting lineup. Can they do it when it matters? If they can't, then if the Warriors are truly all in, you look to augment the roster in the offseason. Again, that's not a conversation for now, but it's kind of the best of all worlds in a sense, because you're seeing who does it in the regular season and how. You hopefully get an opportunity to see who can do it in the playoffs or not. And the guys that can't, then you figure out whether or not they're expendable or not, because you know it's going to be Steph and Draymond and Jimmy Butler. So I think that in and of itself is a nice problem to have. And the Warriors still have other assets and means to be able to go out and acquire a player or two if they feel they need to. But that's, everybody can see that the Warriors may be a shooter short at this point. But you gotta see it. Andis Brown, teams are going to continue to pack the paint, try to make the Warriors shoot threes to beat them. That's it. I mean, there's a reason Draymond's been getting left open to the extent that he's been left open. Jimmy, it's the same thing. And, Jimmy's trying to find his shot. We were having the whole conversation with, prior to the break with the caller. If Jimmy, I don't have a problem with Jimmy taking a couple early. I really don't, because I think Jimmy has to get himself, he has to get a little confidence in his shot. And while his misses have been closer, I feel like lately, a lot more in and out. It's still a freaking line drive. So, those are the ones that tend to back rim or rim out or in and out or whatever. But I think there almost needs to be a little bit of leeway given to Jimmy specifically. Now, Draymond doesn't need to be shooting more than maybe 3 to 5. And that's only if he's hitting the first, 2 of the first 4. But Podziemski and Moody are going to have to hit him. And I think Jimmy is somebody that, that's been the one thing about Jimmy for as great as he's been. Not the 3-point shooting, because he's under 30, I think, for the season here. So it's not like he was a great 3-point shooter to begin with. And he's low 30s, I think, for career, but low to mid. But what it comes down to for me as it relates to Jimmy is he just is, maybe he gets there and he says he will, but there's been less of, and I think this is more the 35-year-old Jimmy Butler. I think everybody's kind of expecting a little bit more of the dominant scorer in these moments where the Warriors don't have a lot of other stuff going. And he really hasn't been able to do it without getting to the free throw line. If he gets the free throw line a lot, he ends up with his 20 to 25. If he doesn't, then he's in the teens, and it's just not dominant or explosive. But the one way that you open that up is by hitting threes, which is why there is going to be that fine line between taking the big threes, even as teams, as Andis points out, pack the paint and try to make the Warriors shoot them. All right, couple more here before the break. Bad shooting game downtown, 7-23. Felt like the game they'd likely lose in the first half. Rusty Nail says, I'm happy with the ugly win. Thank goodness. As the Nugs are up big, Clips and Wolves already won. I didn't check Denver. I know they were winning. Yeah, they blew out Utah tonight. So let's update the standings with that. Did that change anything as it relates to the top of the Western Conference? Denver is still third. So Denver's third. They're a game and a half back of the Rockets. Lakers are fourth, tied with Memphis. Warriors are 2 back of them. Clippers 2 back as well, as LA is 42-31 with the Warriors there at 42-31. So maybe the Nuggets end up passing the Rockets. The Rockets end up 3, but it's all very tight. I mean, the Rockets do have a 3-game lead basically now on 4th and 5th from second, but the Rockets and Nuggets could split. I guess I see where Warrior fans are coming from there. You want Denver to get to 2 and the Warriors to get to 6 with Houston 3. I guess that's the perfect outcome, right? You get Houston, you don't have to bother with the play-in, and you get the week off. All right, I see where Warrior fans are working there. All right, one more here before timeout. And San Jose Jazz fan 4. Okay, JD, so do we like Kaminga now? Like him enough for him to get his bag? I mean, tonight's not the night to talk about his bag. I mean, look, he played well. It just, tonight is more the template for Kaminga. Again, I just come down to it. Everybody knows it because I've said it repeatedly. It's not about Kaminga becoming a star. It's not about giving a little, it's not, like, Kaminga's not going to be the second best player on this team scoring 25 a night, leading them to a title with Steph and Draymond and Jimmy. Like, that's just not what it's going to be. Like, not this year. Maybe next year. Again, Bella, would feel like we said that 2 years ago, and we said that last year, and we said that, early. It just, the Kaminga leap, the Kaminga leap was like 6 games before he got hurt, by the way. Like, it was a solid 6 games. But as Steve Kerr has said a bunch, and we'll play it at some point here, I mean, it's a different team now. And look, I think the Warriors are I think Steve Kerr's thrilled with the Kaminga game tonight. I think he's thrilled with it. The hustle, the way that he played. So, again, that's the other part of this that I say it every night. But if Kaminga does the little things, he's going to get paid. That's how the Warriors pay him. The Warriors are not going to pay him if he's not doing the little things. He may get paid, but he's going to get traded if he's not doing the little things there. So, but again, all in all, good night for Kaminga. Help the Warriors win a game tonight. Like, that's all that matters. It's not about numbers. It's not about accolades. It's not about shots. It's not about getting in your bag. It's not about how you do it. It's, did you help the team win tonight? And the answer to that is a simple yes, in a game that was deemed to be the biggest of the year because they had lost a couple without Steph and were kind of falling in the standings. So, tonight's a real good Kaminga night. Real good. All right, 808 KNBR. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll do Sounds of Dubs OT. We'll have some fun with numbers. We'll get another edition of Kyle's Clicks here. And we will roll on into the weekend. Warriors win at 111.95. It's KNBR 104.5 at 680, the sports leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no balls.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
I now understand what Jimmy Butler meant. I mean, I think I already did, but after spending 3 days in Miami this week, and it was an awful game, and obviously I wasn't playing in the game, but I mean I was covering the game, and we did Dubs OT on Tuesday night from Miami, so I guess we'll consider that on the court. It was kind of lousy covering that game, and what could have been didn't necessarily live up to the hype. Win or lose, it didn't live up to the hype. It was just no drama really at all. But I do understand what Jimmy meant. Happy there off the court, because I was pretty happy there off the court as well for 3 days. And it was a lot of fun. And back here tonight from the home studio on Sunday and Tuesday here before the LA trip for the Warriors and Lakers, and then a couple of home games after that. And wow, tonight starts a stretch as we're back here on Dubs OT. Warriors win 111-95 over San Antonio. Tonight does start a stretch here where it is every other day or a back-to-back for the remainder of the season. Sunday, and then it's Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. I mean, 2 back-to-backs mixed in there. So the time for rest is over. I think part of the reason why Steve Kerr called the game tonight on Tuesday, the biggest game of the season, was the fact that he knew that basically Wednesday and Thursday were the end of the line in terms of rest, and guys are injured and couldn't quite it was the last mulligan, I think, Miami, that the Warriors can afford if they're going to get to where they want to be. And so tonight was essentially a must win. Sunday's a must win. I think there's some other must win kind of games there. If they can get Sunday and the Memphis game, I think then all of a sudden they're alive for 6th and 5th. But it's going to get difficult with the Lakers at the end of the trip, and Denver and Houston after that. And then the final week of the year, there's some winnable games, the final 4 games of the year. But again, it's back-to-back and 4 and 6 to close it out, and an afternoon game. So it's not about it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off, Friday night in Portland, but then Sunday's an afternoon game. So that's basically as close to a 4 and 5 as you can get. And so I think the Warriors are going to be, an older team already. I think they're going to be a little ragged probably by the Denver game when they come back, and then Houston, and then you're playing another 3 and 4. So I think that's the one thing that I would say here to keep an eye on as the Warriors close the year. As this thing goes, 2 games from now, 3 games from now, 4 games from now, where are the Warriors at in terms of like physically holding up and energy and staying healthy and those kinds of things? I think it's going to be important. All right, sounds of Dubs OT. Let's run through it here on KNBR as the Warriors do get that win over the New Orleans Pelicans. And we bring up, we got a bunch of good stuff to get to from Steve Kerr and Draymond Green and Steph Curry. So all the headliners tonight speaking in New Orleans postgame. And we'll just go right down the line here, and we'll start with Steve asking Steph, or asked by reporters about Steph and how he thought 30 looked tonight.
I thought he looked great. He was moving really well, took care of the ball. I thought Steph played an excellent game. He probably missed his last 5 or 6 threes, so the numbers don't look great. But he looked like himself, and I think the week off did him a lot of good.
And that's the most important thing, is I think making sure that he's healthy. Again, it wound up not being a significant injury, but it was significant enough to where the Warriors were able to get him a little bit more rest. It did cost him a couple of games that maybe they could have won, but I think the belief is that they're going to get a refreshed Steph Curry here for this stretch run, final 9 games. Again, as I was just saying, though, one thing to keep an eye on is, and how long does it last? how long does Steph look fresh here with all the games that this team is going to have to play in such a short period of time? Other big headliner tonight, as we've talked about on the positive side, has been Jonathan Kaminga. So our second Steve Kerr clip is on Kaminga and his game and what made him so effective offensively.
Yeah, the dive to the rim when JK sets that ball screen for Steph puts a lot of pressure on the defense, and that was really key tonight. The two of them connected for 3 or 4 of those, and that was helpful.
Yeah, and those are the plays that honestly that GP2 gets a lot. The little slip to the rim, and he's right there under the bucket, and it's an easy lay-in or an easy dunk. Those are the kinds of plays that I think Kaminga can be effective, and it's working with Steph. We've talked about this too. It's the fact that Kaminga, I do think he is better when he's on the court with better players. I think when the Warriors have tried, and this is almost, I think, been a fault of the Warriors in a way that shocker, it's going to be a little different take than I think most of the takes surrounding Kaminga. I think in some ways they've tried to throw him, if there is a criticism of the coaching staff, it's almost like they've tried to throw him in a few too many situations where it's like, go get it. Hey, you're out there with some lesser players and go get it. Like, you think you're that guy. He's obviously willing to do it, but I think he's not great at it at this stage of his career, as much as he may think. But when you put him out there with better players, especially Steph, I think he's at his most effective. And so I think you saw a little bit of that tonight. I still think they're trying to figure out also the exact way to work his minutes to where he's maximized with the best combinations at the best times. Because again, he is so much more effective when he's getting it in the flow of what the Warriors are doing, as opposed to them asking him to just go get it. And so I think that has been part of the problem. But if you're going to, you also don't want that to mess up some other 5-player groupings that have been working, which is why I think, you haven't seen him at the top of the second and fourth quarters. You've seen, tonight it was, that Pajemski, Moody, basically the starters without Steph, but Quentin Post in as a inverted shooting 5, where it's Post and Draymond and Jimmy started the second, started the fourth. Moody, Pajemski, Buddy Hield was out there for Moody because Moody was not having a good night tonight. I wouldn't mind seeing maybe a little Kaminga with that group, possibly even in Draymond's spot. And then you play Draymond maybe a little bit more with Steph. You play Kaminga at the end of the first and third. I would almost have Kaminga bridge the first, and he comes in around that. He's been coming in basically first sub 7, right around the 7-minute mark. I would almost have him come in closer to the 4-minute mark and run him the first 4 of the or the last 4 of the first and third, and maybe the first 4 of the second and fourth, and get him an 8-minute run with a end of the quarter break in between there, and play him a little bit there with Steph, and then play him that with that other group with the shooting on the court with like Quentin Post at the 5 and those kinds of things. But again, I think Steve Kerr does not necessarily think that team can have the defensive fortitude. I think he really likes the Draymond, Jimmy Butler defensive tenacity with Pajemski out there and Moody's out there making plays. And so I think that's why we haven't maybe seen it, but they're still, I will say, trying to figure it out, I think, a little bit in terms of the groups of players that are on the court at times with JK. All right, continuing on here, let's hear a couple from Draymond as the Warriors get the win tonight in New Orleans. And I'm clicking around here. All right, Draymond Green with the defense, a little on the defense and a little on the Warriors shooting woes tonight.
Man, that definitely makes a difference. Shot 23% from 3, 41 from the field. Helps to make shots. But we won by 16 shooting those numbers. So I like where our defense was. I think, we did a pretty good job defending. Holding them to 95 points is huge. But, yeah, we got to make shots. So we haven't as of late. But I'd rather that happen now. It's a good time for it to happen than in a few weeks.
Yeah, and if it's happening in a few weeks and the Warriors are going to be in big-time trouble, they're going to have to be winning with even greater defensive prowess than they've had in a lot of these games that they've been able to win. More on the offense here from Draymond as we continue on. It sounds at Dubs OT here on the Sports Leader. And it's Draymond on the shots that the Warriors are getting. That's been a heavy-duty debate, a back-and-forth debate tonight. Are they getting good shots? Are they taking too many threes? What is it? I thought tonight they did get a lot of good shots, especially early. I didn't think the Warriors were really playing lazy early in the game, but here's what Draymond had to say as far as the shots that the Warriors were getting tonight offensively.
I think we're getting great looks. I think we missed, 20-some threes in the first half? 26, I think.
Shot 28. I think we're 6 for 28.
Yeah, so we missed 22. I think 19 of them was great looks. We just missed them, So I like the shots that we're creating. I think the ball can hop a little bit more, sticking a little bit at times, but I think we're creating good looks. We just got to knock them down. I have no doubt that we will.
Well, confidence is an important part to that, to be sure. And again, all eyes on Moses Moody and Brandon Pajemski and Quentin Post. And it's not just the younger players. It's the GP2 types as well, all of that. And so the confidence that if the shots are there, again, it's a lot of it is the Steph gravity, the Jimmy Butler creation, the ball movement, all those things. I think back to that playoff run where Miami, as I've mentioned a few times with Jimmy Butler, and it's who's Caleb Martin and Duncan Robinson and all these guys, Haywood Highsmith, all these guys, like random guys are getting these open looks. They hit them. And when they hit them, they were winning playoff series against really good teams. I think this Warriors team is a better team than those teams were, or that team was going back to a couple of years ago. But that team had guys that you wouldn't necessarily expect to make shots, and that was the key. All right, a few from Steph Curry here as we roll on. KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM San Francisco, the sports leader, a Cumulus media station. Steph on the week off and just how he was feeling physically, plus takeaway on a game that the Warriors had to have.
Felt good. I mean, a week off is great in one aspect because you're rested, but the timing, the endurance of getting through your regular minutes, that was a little bit of a challenge. And, down the stretch, just trying to manage a game and not do anything crazy. So all in all, it was a great night. Obviously, nice to get the win. Second half was way better for our entire team. And, these are games you have to win.
And the Warriors do get the win as well. And so, yeah, the week off, great. Endurance. I that's another thing with like the slow start. Like I wasn't it put the Warriors in I put tonight's slow start in a different category because I think it was that group trying to get reacclimated. Anytime you lose Steph, I think it takes you a game to get acclimated to not having them and how you have to play. Obviously, the Warriors don't want that problem anymore. But anytime you get them back, I think, and you're rechanging the starting lineup, and he's trying to get in a rhythm. He's such a rhythm player. Everybody's trying to get into a rhythm around him that sometimes it takes a game or at least half of a game to get everybody on the same page. And that's even a bigger issue if it winds up being, a game where you're missing a bunch of shots early on. All right, one more from Steph here on our Sounds of Dubs OT, discussing, as we've laid out the standings here, exactly where things sit and the importance for the Warriors to stay away from the play-in. Here's Steph's thoughts on that.
It's extremely important. Guarantee a series and you get a week off. So nobody wants to be in a play-in if you can control, the outcome. But I think we're past worrying about looking at the standings every night. It's just, win as many games as possible. Worry about each night as best as you can. It is fun to go back to your phone, look at the, around the league scores and see what's going on. But you can't obsess over that or put too much pressure on yourself. Just play basketball, develop good habits, and hopefully that takes care of itself.
Yeah, and that's all you can do. And I think as you look at that being the mantra for the Warriors here to close out the season is play the best you can, don't try to cheat anything, and if you end up 7, you end up 7. You go win the play-in game, and you get 7, and you move on from there. But I think again, all you can do at this point is try to win and try to build a rhythm to where you have that momentum going into the playoffs. All right, let's go ahead and get to our fun with numbers for tonight.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, Warriors get the win, 111-95, as they improve to 42-31. They win the first game of this trip on game number 3, their first win. Third game of the trip, obviously the losses to Atlanta and Miami. 3 games to go at the Spurs, at the Grizzlies, at the Lakers before this team returns home. 42nd win. We started the show with that nugget. Warriors, a winning season for the 12th time in the last 13 seasons. And the Warriors, according to Elias, since the 2012-13 season, so that first year the Warriors made the playoffs with Steph and Mark Jackson, the coach, and all of that, the Warriors and the Clippers, the only teams to have a winning record in 12 of the last 13 seasons, only teams that have done that. So the Warriors' success level, excellent. And the Warriors, the 12th team all time to have a record of above 500 in 12 of 13 seasons, as the Sixers have done it, the Bucks, Celtics, Clippers, Jazz, Knicks, Lakers, Mavs, Rockets, Spurs, and Trailblazers all at some point in their history have done that. And so, yeah, it has been an era of success. Obviously, title aspirations are the order of the day here, trying to get that one more. But if you are one of the semi-OGs like I am, or greater OGs than me, you obviously remember a time where the Warriors had a significant run of not having success, like the 16 of 17 or 18 of 19 or whatever the heck it was before the last 12 of 13, where they were not a 500 team in all but 2 of those years and made the playoffs in just 1 of those years. So getting above 500 for the OGs is still, I think, a big deal and something to be celebrated. Warriors sweep the season series 4-0 against the Pelicans. We talked about the starting lineup of Steph, Podziemski, Jimmy Butler, Moses Moody, and Draymond Green. Now 10-0 with that lineup. It's also, believe it or not, and this one was stunning to me, although the Warriors have had a million different lineups, I think like 39 different lineups that Steve Kerr's put out there. This lineup is the lineup that Kerr's used the most. This lineup, I couldn't believe that. It's 10 games is the most that Steve Kerr's used any lineup this season, but injuries and tinkering and all of those things play a role in that. And the Warriors are 10-0 with this lineup. So again, I think for those that are thinking make a change, like I don't think Moody's fallen out for Quentin Post. I don't think Kaminga is taking Moody's spot. I don't think Podziemski's going anywhere, at least at this point. I think tonight's a night where, that group didn't play well early. They did play well in the third quarter, but the numbers with that group have been really good there as we look ahead. We could get one in, Kyle. We can get one in right now. We put Otis up there. Otis Bird the third. Yeah, Chris Cohen era was rough. Still stuck through with the team. Even people thought you were weird for supporting the Warriors. Yeah, the Warriors were. I mean, God, the Warriors couldn't have been any more uncool. I mean, God, It's but it's look, different times, different era. With the Warriors becoming a winning team here for the 12th time in the last 13 years. Warriors won on the boards tonight, which was key. Second chance points was huge. 36 second chance points for the Warriors. 33 was their season high at Dallas, the game they lost before the break. So the Warriors did the job in terms of second chance points. 16-4 when they get at least 50 rebounds. So that was a part of the story tonight. Steph, game high 23, made 5 threes, 4 boards, 6 assists, control of the game. Again, endurance, as he mentioned, maybe a little bit of an issue, but Steph played well. Kaminga was 16 off the bench. That's double figures for 25 straight games that he's played in, which is the second longest streak of his career. But again, I think tonight was more about the other stuff for Kaminga. It was the rebounds. It was the intent. It was the hustle. Really nice game tonight from Jonathan Kaminga. 7 boards, 3 assists, and a steal for JK in 23 minutes. And again, we hope everything's good for Kaminga after he banged knees there late with Missy of the Pelicans. Jimmy Butler, 6th double-double of the year, 4th with the Warriors, 18 points, 10 boards. He had 7 offensive rebounds in this game. And Quentin Post, kind of the unheralded Warrior tonight, ended up with 15 points, and the Warriors needed him. 3 of 9 from 3. He's trying to find his shot, but Quentin Post was a real positive contributor for the Warriors. Looking at some of the plus-minus numbers tonight, your plus-minus heroes tonight, Kyle. Draymond, 6 plus 16. Guy Santos tonight. Hustle plays, connecting the game. Guy Santos, you look at his line, and you don't think much of it, but hustle plays, big offensive rebound here, big steal there, big pass here. He was a plus 15. That was the number 2 plus minus on the court tonight. Your top 3 in plus minus for the Warriors. Draymond plus 16, Guy Santos plus 15, and then Steph and Quentin Post plus 10 tonight. Jimmy Butler a plus 7, but plus 22 in the second half for Jimmy Butler after poor numbers in the first half. Your plus minus heroes for the Dubs in this one. All right, let's wrap it up here for the final 5 minutes or so with some Kyle's clicks. Back to the YouTube chat we go, and just love seeing everybody. Joe Schmo, how was South Beach, JD? Food? Yeah, food was great. Great coffee. I went to my spot, Cafe Versailles in Little Havana, which is a spot that I really like. One of the days, but yeah, always good eating down there. Love the Cuban coffee, Cuban espresso with a little of the brown sugar in the steamed milk in the espresso. It's awesome. Fantastic. That's living. Need to find somewhere I can get that in the Bay. A little Cuban espresso to get you going. Max Lopez, only sub 500 year Steph didn't play. Yeah, it was the only sub 500 year was we mentioned this earlier, Max. It was the 1920 year when Clay was out with the 2 injuries and Steph played only the 5 games. It was the year that got shut down due to COVID in March of 2020. And yeah, even the years that have seemed not to be as successful, the year coming out of COVID where the Warriors, I think they were 39-33, lost in the play-in the 72-game season. Go back to last year, they won 46. Everybody was frustrated about that because they ended up getting smoked against the Kings and missed the playoffs. But yeah, those are only the one year where the Warriors were not a 500 team. JC Mack, I think Jimmy is just playing cerebral, hides it now, show it in the playoffs. We'll see. Again, I'm not counting that out until we see it, but I think there are some that believe that maybe Jimmy doesn't necessarily have what he did even 2 years ago in the bag in terms of the athleticism and scoring ability to dominate games. But that's one thing. If he can flip that switch, that's one thing that can offset some of the Warriors' potential lack of shooting to where they can get by in some of these games in the playoffs. We shall see. Reed the Steed, I think we all clinch a little bit when Jimmy goes for a 3. I'm like, honestly, with him, I'm like, take it, especially early. Like, I think it just, he's got to find that at least a little bit because I think being, that's also part of the debate with the 55 3-point attempts. How many is too many? You don't ever want to come across as afraid to take it. And I think that's the one thing that, like, Draymond's really tried to not be afraid to take it. Pajemski, sometimes if he misses a couple, he gets in his own head. He gets a little like Kaminga, honestly, where like him and Kaminga are actually very similar in like kind of mentality wise. Like they both think they're pretty darn good. I think they both think they're a little better than they are, but yet they also, I think they miss a couple and they start to get in their own head and they do I want to pass it? Do I want to shoot it? It's funny because they're kind of on different ends of the Warrior fandom spectrum. It's like Pajemski will have one half a bad game. It's like, don't play him. Kaminga's the other. Kaminga's like the one guy who will not play well. I was telling Kyle this during the break, and everybody, he's like the one guy that cannot play well, and everybody's like, you got to play him more. That's why you got to play him more. That's why he's not good. It's because you got to play him. Like you are living well if you can get to a point where a fan base thinks that you not playing well, you need to play more. But they're very different players. Obviously, they're kind of similar. I think sometimes they get in their own head a little bit. But I think you can't be afraid to shoot it. Moses Moody, he took his 0 for 9, and it wasn't great tonight, but he hasn't been afraid to shoot it. And I think that's, look, you got to fight through the struggles. And like Draymond said, I think the hope is from the Warriors that it may be that way now, but it won't be in a couple of weeks. Greg Silver, in all seriousness, can the Warriors not start a game looking like my rec team? I don't know what to tell you, Greg.
And I think that's the real Greg Silver.
I think it is. I've never seen your rec league team play, but and the results were not great tonight. I didn't think they didn't play well, but I don't think it was effort. I don't think it was stupidity. Like tonight, I just thought they missed shots tonight. I thought they missed shots and they were a little lax defensively, maybe, but I was never in doubt tonight, Greg. Enrique Rivera, Jimmy shooting threes. I'd have more faith in Jimmy's half court shot. He made one tonight after the play or after the buzzer tonight that didn't count, and so that's what I guess he made another one that did count going back on the homestand. All right, our final one tonight. Sounds of Dubs OT. Let's get to our commenter of the night.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
Matt A. Oh, wow. Put my daughter down for bed, and we are still rolling. You darn right we are, Matt. You darn right we are. And tonight, we're only a little over 90 minutes tonight. That's nothing. We're going to call it here in like right now, but I think
the greater question is, did his daughter go to bed with Dubs OT as her white noise?
Oh yeah, I put her right to sleep. Matt,
you tell a good bedtime story, JD.
nothing puts the babies to bed like JD talking about Jonathan Kaminga. Nothing. That's the best bedtime story going, Matt. One more from Drew. I'm going to give an honorable mention tonight from our buddy Drew Butler. The constant is on Kaminga. The constant, he's losing money after a bad game, or he's making money after a good game is ridiculous. Yeah, I'm sick of all that. Like, it's just about, did he help the team win or not? Like, the money stuff is for the offseason. The money stuff is for June and July. And again, they need him on the team. You can't make a trade right now. So let's see if they can figure out a way to make it work. And again, I think tonight, for all the back and forth, tonight he did. Tonight was good. They won the game. He contributed positively. Awesome. Good night. Let's see what happens in San Antonio on Sunday. Matt, hey, my wife knows I have Dubs OT on during bedtime stories. Thanks, Matt. We appreciate you, and we appreciate everybody watching here on YouTube and Twitch, the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line, and good caller segment right off the top at 808 KNBR, as well as the Warriors win in New Orleans, 111-95. All right, that's going to do it for us. Join us tomorrow. Kyle, you in for tomorrow? We're going to we got the Giants tomorrow in the afternoon. So that means we got Marty and Carrie and all of that. So we're gonna go over to YouTube tomorrow. Kyle's gonna join me. Maybe Greg Silver pops in. We'll see. He might have another rec league basketball game. But we'll go for about an hour tomorrow. Probably right around 10 o'clock, 10:30. Kyle, when do you want to do it tomorrow? We can go anytime. You want to go early? You want to go? I mean, we're not on the air, so we're not behold. We can kind of do whatever we want.
Yeah, well, let's stick to the usual 10 a.m.
All right. Yeah, so we'll do 10 a.m. tomorrow until about 11 or till whenever we feel like it. So a lot of the comments we didn't get to tonight, we'll get into that. Some other bigger picture topics from the week that we didn't have time to get into tonight. We'll do all of that. So join me and Kyle, and we'll talk to you tomorrow from 10 until 11, and then back after the game on Sunday, right around 6:30, 7 o'clock. We've also got Sunday Night Baseball, I think, on the airwaves on Sunday. So we might be a little after the end of the game, but should be pretty close. That game should end sometime between 6:30 and 7. The Warriors are going to end sometime around 6:30. So yeah, keep it locked here for Dubs OT following the Warriors and the Spurs. For Kyle and for Danny Dunn, and looks like Ryan McCarthy and anybody else.
That is it.
All right, that'll do it. Big thanks to one and all. We'll talk to you tomorrow on YouTube and Sunday after the Warriors and the Spurs as the Dubs get the win 111-95. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Alvarado dropping it inside. Butler quicker. Curry running with Jimmy. Lobbing it up and laying it home. Jimmy read that one perfectly defensively.
Emirates Cup or bust?
Oh, hell yeah. First of all, you got to start off liking each other.
I'm super cereal.
Big fat dub.
Ain't nobody going to stop me. I just wake up and I can shoot it no matter if I'm playing or not.
But great win.
Who are these guys?
I love you, JD. Bye, sugar.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
Jimmy freaking Butler puts it in.
Everything's going to be all right.